Magic is done.
Okay,
The triangle.
so
This
today
right
we're
here,
going
because this is
over
the height,
civil
your
law
base is perpendicular.
from civics,
Therefore, this is the
and we're going to be
base,
filling out
this
a
is the
graphic
height.
organizer here.
Base times height, this is the triangle, the formula
Graphic
is divided by
organizer.
2.
And basically what we're going to do is the topic,
Inches
you're going to
times
write
inches and radius squared.
civil law
Two
right here.
dimensions, so that's why it's squared. So you use that one. That was one, but I want to really let you see it. This is, okay, well, let me go back.
And then for the main idea, what we're going to be putting is the subheadings. So types of civil law, contract law, property law. So just for the first one, you can put types of civil law.
You might want to take it again and really get your grasping understanding of this. What are the two shapes here? First thing, clearly you have your rectangle, and here you have a
And then
parallel.
the goal for this today is we're going to be writing 2 to 3 facts per subheading.
So this is what I do. You could do this
So
on
that
your
way
test.
it will help you
Draw
to know
the formulas
each
on your
part
little
of
page.
civil law. Okay.
Formula for
So
the rectangle
last
base
time
times,
that I worked with you, we talked a lot about
base times
the
height,
Cuban
do it that way.
government
And then
and
you have to
the
do a
American
parallelogram.
government. Do you remember
And what you remind yourself in the parallelogram
one thing
has a
that they
height.
had in common?
Both
Times the height
Okay.
inside the parallelogram.
They both have
So
three
those are two
types.
things that you're gonna have
Yeah.
to do.
three types of laws.
They have the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch. That's what they have in common. However, the differences between those 3 branches for each is that the years for the electoral votes are different.
Yeah.
So at least you remember that. Okay, so we're going to go back to this. So we're going to do this together. Okay, so we're going to read through this.
This is 21.6 feet.
What we're going to do is I'll read one page, you'll read the other, like we'll take turns reading. Okay.
Is parallel to this line.
Okay, so if you watch crime shows on television, you have an idea of what criminal law involves. Criminal law deals with people who have been accused of acts that harm society. If identified, the suspects are arrested and tried for those acts. If found guilty, they are punished. Another type of law does not involve crimes against society. Instead, it involves disputes. Those disputes might be between 2 or more individuals, a person and a company, 2 or more companies, or a person or a company, and the government. This type of law is called civil law. These disputes arise when people think they have been harmed by someone else's actions. So one fact I would put here for this one would be, what do you think what it should be?
Feet times feet squared. Okay, quickly, the team, go ahead and get calculators, double check your dimensions,
The criminal law deals with people who have been caused of acts that harm society.
You could put that. Or what I was thinking is that since we're talking about civil law and it's criminal law, you could write the definition of civil law, which is it does not involve crime against society.
So what do I write?
You just write does not cause harm against society.
Does not cause
harm to society.
Alright. 21.6 times 11.1, rounded to the nearest 10. As a reminder, I taught you the TH-triple-T. T-H,
Okay.
T-T.
Like criminal law, civil law can involve a court case. In a criminal trial, the government prosecutes a person accused of a crime. In civil law, the court case stems from a lawsuit. Okay, so I would also put down that in civil law, the court stems from a lawsuit. So this whole sentence here. In civil law, the court case
having this one rounded to the nearest 10, 239.8 feet squared.
Stands from
And then what do you have for the base times height rounded to the nearest 10? Does anybody have
Lawsuit.
What'd you get?
And do you know what a lawsuit is?
No.
Okay, so a lawsuit is where, so say
208.
you hit me. Okay, so there, you hit me.
These are,
I would sue you for battery, for bodily harm. So that'd be a lawsuit, because I'd be taking the law and using it against you. Lawsuit, okay? Alright, so
And the next one would be round the nearest 10.
most lawsuits fall into one of the 4 branches of civil law. Those branches are contract law, property law, family law, and personal injury law. Each deals with particular kinds of legal disputes. I would also write those 4 branches down on here. We have contract law,
I hate when you point zeros at me.
property law, family law, and personal injury law. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next subheading. So for right here, you're going to put contract law.
And the next one.
Okay, so if you just want to read that section.
Okay. A contract law is an agreement between 2 or more parties to exchange something or value. If one party to a contract fails to keep his or her promise, the other party can sue him or her. In that suit, the second party claims they have been injured in some way by the failure of the other to follow the contract.
Okay, stop there. So is there anything from this paragraph that you can write down that you think is important to know?
If one party to a contract fails to keep his or her promise, the other party can sue him or her.
That is very important to know. Yep, so go ahead and write that whole sentence down.
So for your formula, you have to cut that in half on the state test. You have to know radius equals 5.8 centimeters. You designate that on your state test, because they're not going to do it for you. And because it's a semicircle, we're going to divide it by 2 when we're done. This is going to be 3.14, and then the radius is going to be radius squared is 5.8. 5.8 divided by 2. Run the nearest 10. Base times height is 11.6 times 11.6.
Or her.
Go ahead and add up, round to the nearest 10th and add these up. Round to the nearest 10th and you'll add these up. And these are going to be centimeters
Promise.
squared.
Party.
Run to the nearest 10. And what? And the centimeters after the decimal. It's really this one.
Okay. Another important thing to put down as well is what a contract is. So, the whole first sentence here. So a contract is an agreement.
So what we're going to have now is, most of you should have put your formulas in. Clearly make sure I guided you in pictures and we put this up. Go ahead as a team and discuss round the nearest 10.
Exchange.
Mm-hmm. So also what I would do is underline contract, so that way you know that this is a definition here. Okay. Alright, so go ahead and you finish reading.
Everyday action results in contract without signing any papers. For example, when a server at a restaurant takes your order for food, a contract is formed. Each party has promised the other something of value. The restaurant has promised food. You have promised to pay for the meal.
Okay. So another thing that I would write down that I thought was important, that contracts don't have to be written. So here you might think that a contract has to be written, but many everyday actions result in contracts without signing any papers. So you can just write contracts don't have to be written.
Right,
Written. Okay. Alright, you want to go ahead and read their paragraph?
The contract between you and the restaurant is an example of an oral or spoken contract. Many contracts, of course, are written. In fact, some contracts must be written. For example, a contract for the sale of anything worth more than $500 cannot be enforced unless it is in writing. Writing contract can be complex. Parties to contracts should revise them carefully before signing them.
Okay, so a lot of contracts people make, they don't review them before signing them. Like if you do, like if you're going to lease an apartment. So if you're going to an apartment building, you find an apartment that you like, they give you a contract. It's usually a year lease. You have to pay for cable, water, electric most of the time. So a lot of people don't read that, so they forget that they have to do that, and they wonder why their bill is so high when they have to pay.
Here we go.
Okay, so now we're going on to the next subheading, property law.
This one here. 52.8, but first one is 134.6.
Okay.
And the second one?
So property law includes rules that must be followed in buying and selling land or a building. An owner must have papers proving that he or she has the right to sell or transfer the property. Property law also covers the way property is cared for and used. For instance, there are laws requiring owners who rent out their property to keep it in good repair for the renter's use. Okay. So for this one, being that there is very little information, there's one more paragraph. Okay. At the same time, renters have a responsibility to take care of the property while they use it. Disputes can arise over these responsibilities. For example, it is the owner's responsibility to repair a leaky roof on a rented house. But what if the renter does not tell the owner about a leak until major damage has occurred? Who should pay for the repairs then? If the owner and renter cannot agree, a court must decide. So, for this one, I would write this first sentence here. Property law includes rules that must be followed in buying and selling land or a building. Because that's important to know that property. Property means land. The whole first sentence here.
And these are going to have to be done as two triangles in this case. What are the formulas for a triangle? Two triangles. Base times height divided by, and you're going to have two of those. What else do we have in here? We have a rectangle, which is base times height. What else do we have? Semicircle, so it's pi r squared divided by 2. Go ahead and plug in a couple things you have to remember here. If this is 18.3, this line's parallel, it's also 18.3. However, radius. Radius is half the diameter.
Another thing I would write is that property law also covers the way property is cared for and used. Because that's important to know too when you buy or if you're renting. So say you're renting a house, okay? And so, like the example in here, that there's a leaky roof. If you don't tell the owner that something is leaking through the roof, who's responsible to pay and fix it?
The one who is staying in the house.
So the renter.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, a court would have to decide because the renters are just renting. They don't own the house. The owner owns the house.
Yeah.
So they would have to decide, would the owner have to pay it because it's their house, or would the renter have to pay it because they didn't tell the owner that something was wrong? So in that case, a court would have to decide.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, if I was the judge, I would say the renter would have to pay because I would agree with you. They were living there. They didn't tell the owner. Okay, so go ahead and write property law covers the way property is cared for and used.
Law also covers.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. In case you weren't sure,
Mm-hmm.
this is the height of
Used.
the triangle, 8.4, so the base perpendicular, 4.2 times 8.4.
Alright, so if you want to go ahead and read family
divided
law.
by 2, you have 2 of them.
Another area of civil law involves rule applied to family relationships. This area involves matters such as birth, adoption, marriage, divorce, and death. How a divorcing couple divides the property they once owned together is a matter of civil law. So is the question of how the former spouse divides the right to take care of any children they have. Death sometimes leads in the property disputes. For example, people might disagree about what good each should receive when a family member dies. Disagreements over these issues often end up in court.
Good job. Okay, so since you filled all this out, we're going to go into the next one here. So here you're going to write family law. Okay. What do you think is important that we know from this?
That I think another area of civil law involves rules applied to family relationships.
That is very important to know. Yes, go ahead and write that down. That's important to know because family law, a lot of people get that mixed up with just regular civil court cases. For instance, I know a family who got divorced about 2 years ago, and they have a daughter who's 11, and they were in court for months because they were disputing on the fact who should get custody of their child, because the father had cheated on the mother multiple times. He was a cop, he worked in the prison in Northport, and the mother had an okay job, was able to provide for her and her family. However, the father made more money. Well, the court came to a decision that they would get 50-50, which means
some days the mother gets the
right.
daughter, and some days the
dad gets the daughter, right? And that resulted in the fact that the father didn't have to pay child support. None of the parents have to pay child support.
Divorce. Wait.
Involves rules.
I wasn't hearing.
Okay. Is there anything else from here that we could write down?
I think how a divorcing couple divides the property one owns together is a matter of civil law.
Okay, that is important. We can write that one down, but there's also one more that I think is important as well. Family law. It says this area involves matters such as birth, adoption, marriage, divorce, and death. I think that's important to know because, like I said, a lot of people don't really know what family law consists of, like what it involves.
Mm-hmm.
So I would write this, and then we can write what you had said, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So good job. Okay. Then you can write down yours as well. So the next sentence.
If you were with me Friday, I made a mistake on Friday, so I have to go back on the 8th. If you were with me, and it's and it's weird because it's 2 dimensions, radius times radius, so everybody done? Yes. Everybody else go, you can look at number 4 and start at 15.
Okay, good job. Okay. Alright, so our next subheading is going to be personal injury.
I do this one as a parallelogram. And then I do this one as a triangle.
Okay. The fourth branch of civil law involves wrongful actions that cause injury to another person or damage to his or her property. These cases are called torts. Suppose someone throws a ball that breaks a window and a broken glass flying from the window cuts another person. The injured person could sue the one who threw the ball to make him or her pay for the injury. There are two types of torts. An intentional tort is a deliberate act that results in harm. Throwing the ball at the window might qualify as this type of tort. The other type is called negligence. Negligence is careless or reckless behavior. It occurs when someone does something that a reasonable person would not have done. Playing ball close to a window could be seen as negligence. Negligence also exists when a person fails to do something that a reasonable person would have done. Disagreement over whether or not an action is reasonable can lead to a lawsuit. So there's a lot of information in this section here. A lot of good information to know. What do you think one thing is that we should write down?
The fourth branch of civil law involves wrongful actions that cause injury to other person or damage to his or her property.
Perfect. Yeah. Good job.
Using the top, the triangle, the base times height divided by 2. And then the developer is times height inside. Base of the developer is 20.2 is the base. Height is 4.1.
Alright, good job. Alright, so we have two vocabulary words here. Okay, so we have torts and we have negligence. So down here, tort is a wrongful act other than breaking a contract for which an injured party has the right to sue. And negligence is a lack of proper care and attention. Okay, we're not going to write those down yet. We will soon though, okay? What's another thing you think we should write down?
Alright, are you trying to be or racist?
I think this the injured person could sue the one who threw the ball to make him or her pay for the injury.
Okay, so we could write that. That's a good one to write down, but we would have to write down what happened before that. There's a lot of writing. So, one that I was thinking of was that an intentional tort is a deliberate act that results in harm, because there's two types of torts, right? As we read here. So I would put an intentional tort is a deliberate act that results in harm. And then we'll write the second one, okay? But good job.
Times your height inside the triangle. You have to divide that by 2. Remember, one important feature, you have to add up when you're done getting these around the nearest 10. These are kilometers squared, because you're multiplying kilometer times kilometer. These are your two stresses.
Perfect. Right. The last one that I would write is negligence, because that's the second type of tort. So, I would just write negligence is careless or reckless behavior. Okay.
Okay, so your team over here. So you have 20.2, so 20.2. 7.2
Okay. Good job. Okay. And then we have. Oh, we're almost done. Perfect. Okay. So, for the next subheading, you just put the legal process. Okay. So this one has a lot of vocabulary words as well. We'll go over them, and then if it, we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So if you want to go ahead and begin reading.
As you have seen, many disputes end up in lawsuits. Each lawsuit involves at least two parties. This person who files a lawsuit is the plaintiff. The person being sued is the defendant. The person begins when the plaintiff, a lawyer, files a complaint with the court. The complaint states the wrong that the plaintiff says the defendant committed and how the complaint was harmed. A complaint may ask the court to order the defendant to pay the plaintiff a sum of money called managed damages. They repay the plaintiff for the loss. It may ask the court to order the plaintiff to take a court action, such as honoring a contract.
Okay, go ahead, stop there for a second. Okay. So, a lot of information is this paragraph. What do you think one thing we should write down?
No.
Okay. So, what I would write would be the person who files a lawsuit is the plaintiff, and the person being sued is the defendant. Because that's important to know, especially if, God forbid, you ever have to go to a court. Okay? God forbid. I hope it will never happen for you. It's important to know that, okay? So the person who files a lawsuit is the plaintiff, and the person being sued is the defendant.
Here, real quick, what's the bottom? What do we get for the bottom? What do we get for the bottom?
124.
Beans.
I gotta write this one first. The person who files a lawsuit is the plaintiff.
So,
And for the last bit, once this is done, for your last bit, I'm gonna get you started on tomorrow's. I'm gonna get tomorrow's flip chart ready.
is
What you're gonna do between now and the end of the period is get the notes for tomorrow ready.
I would go ahead and underline that for plaintiff.
The volume of a prisoner is a product of the area of the base and the height of the prison. With the area of a base is the area of either a triangle or the area of a rectangle. Here is a big B, volume equals big BH. Big B is the area of whatever the base shape is. What's the area of a triangle? It's right here. In this case, the easiest way to do it is the 3 dimensions. When they're prisons that are rectangular, square prisons, easy. Blank times blank times blank, cubic units, you're done. When it's the area of a
Let's see,
triangle.
another one that I would write would be, let's see what we have. The process begins when the plaintiff's lawyer files a complaint with the court. The complaint states the wrong that the plaintiff says the defendant committed and how the plaintiff was harmed. I think that's important. It's pretty long, but the complaint states the wrong that the plaintiff says the defendant committed. Those whole sentence here.
the complaint states says the
Because you have it, these are 3 dimensions, that's why they're cute. It's the area of the base, and the area is gonna have 2 dimensions there. Then you have the height, which is your 3rd dimension. Triangular one, you have to divide by 2 because obviously it's a triangle.
That was hard.
So it's all 3 dimensions divided by 2. And when you have a hexagon, we'll give you the big B. You just multiply that.
Okay. Good job. Alright. When a complaint is filed, the court sends out a summons. This document tells the defendant that he or she is being sued. It also says when and where the defendant must appear in court. Okay. For this one, I would write a summons as a document. Here, right here. Summons is a notice directing someone to appear in court to answer a complaint or damage. I would write this. Also, if the lunch bell rings, you're gonna stay in here, okay? We're almost done, so you're doing a great job. Thank you.
You have 4 minutes to continue making sure all this page is done. If you have some markers that you want to color coordinate the page, you can. Tonight, don't forget, you have a couple formulas that I need you to memorize for tonight. Area of a circle.
To answer
Pi r squared. You have to do the parallelogram.
a complaint
Base. Height. The
or a
actual
charge.
rectangle. Base times height. What else do we have in it? Is circle, parallelogram, or triangle?
Awesome. Alright, so we have for here before the trial.
And semicircle.
Okay.
Oops, I'm sorry. Let me fix that for you.
So Go ahead and read.
The defendant lawyer may respond to or answer the complaint by filling an answer to the charges. In the next step, the lawyers on each side build in their case. They check the fact question, possible witnesses, and gather evidence about the dispute. This process is called discovery.
Okay, stop for a second. I think that's important to know, right? What a lawyer does before. So, I would go ahead and write this definition down here. So, discovery, a process. Okay, go ahead and read.
Sometimes the parties agree to the term too. The party might agree on a sum.
You skip a sentence.
Sometimes the party agree to the term to settle a suit. The agreement is called a settlement. The parties might agree on a sum of money. The defendant will pay the plaintiff. In return, the plaintiff agrees to drop the lawsuit. The parties might also agree that the defendant will act to fulfill the term of a contract.
Okay, question. Do you have lunch right now?
Hmm?
Do you have lunch right now?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and get your lunch and then we'll finish this, okay?
So